The most important part probably was the work we did during the first year to implement the idea of open government. Because at the beginning we were trying to create the offer and the demand for this. There was almost no one working on being interested on this subject, so we had the challenge to not also create an open data portal, not also create a legal framework to do this in the city, but we also had to reach out. We designed two teams. One was focused on open data, and the other one was focused on open government culture. So both things work together all the time, but one is always thinking on how can we reach more community, how can we participate on the community events, how can we start talking with the community. Because there was no community around open government information in the city. From the very beginning of the initiative, we were an open office ready to talk with a lot of people and trying to tell them there is an office here that will be working with you to help you create solutions for the city. So I think that the best part after our first year, definitely, it was the creation of a community around the information of the government. We thought we need to create some events to bring the community to government. So probably the first hackathon that we did a few months after we launched the initiative was one of the most important things. That was the first time that we were asking developers to come and work with city agencies on some specific problems related to the data that we were publishing. And it was amazing. I mean, we were very scared because we didn't know that the people was going to come. I mean, it was the very, very first time that the government was organizing this kind of event. And it also was a challenge for the government itself. I had to talk with every agency and explain them the kind of thing we were trying to do. And for some of them, it's like really hard to understand even the word hackathon. I mean, they look at me like, and they were like very surprised and they didn't quite understand. But then when they came and they spent that weekend with the teams and they saw that they were creating an application with information that we were using and on a daily basis in government, it was an instant change for those agencies that came. So this is a work that it's like really hard because the government is huge and you need to reach out as many agencies as you can. But right now that we are finishing the work for our next hackathon, it became much more easy because the idea of open government is right now, there's a lot of people talking about that. The new hackathon that we are organizing for this year is going to be interesting because it's going to be focused specifically on problems. Because when we were looking through data to publish, and when we sit down with a specific agency, we find problems around the data. And what we can do is to help them out to create new products with the data. Right now we are finishing a really good work with the database that has all the work that the city is doing on the streets with potholes and trees and sidewalks, etc. We are taking all that information and we are putting all that on a map. So you are going to be able to see what is the government doing on your specific street. And this is something that you never had a chance to see. You have someone that it's like making a hole in your street and you don't know if that is for who is doing it, how long it's going to take, why are they doing it. So we are taking all that information and making a map that is going to be helping the citizens to see what is going to happen on their specific street. Because that's maybe one of the most, that's what the neighbors more concerned about, what is happening on your surroundings, in your street, in your sidewalk, with your tree, why they are cutting it. We are also working with a lot of visualizations. We are finishing right now a visualization of all the bike rides in Buenos Aires, showing a new way to see how that system works in the city and visualizing that. We are now also working with the Ministry of Education, helping them to redesign the way they communicate evaluations to the teachers and to the parents. The other one that it's like really, really interesting, it's like we are trying to organize a database with all the cultural heritage of the city, all the statues and landmarks of the city. that information right now in the city is divided in many agencies, and we're trying to consolidate that in one single database and trying to see if we can work with the community to help, for them to help us to indicate where is a specific statue, where it's located, and see if they can help us to create together a database around that. Now in a few days we are releasing the information of all the trees of the city. We are trying to see if we can create an application for that, to let people check that information. Many of the things we are trying to work as new projects, what we do is we talk with an agency and we tell them to see if there is a way to tap a problem with the community. Right now we understood that the big challenge of all this movement is to get more people involved. Actually, social media is a big part of open government, of course. I mean, it was the first step of creating new channels to connect with the people. And for them to being able to contact the government in a more efficient way, we created a big infrastructure for the city with more than 300 social networks for the government and a huge reach, over 1 million people for the city. So that was kind of the first part, create new channels. And part of the Open Data initiative is use those networks to communicate with more people. But it was clear that we needed to go deeper, because we needed for them to participate in a more efficient and clear way. So that's where I think open government is kind of an evolution of the idea that we began working with social networks. But it's absolutely connected. I mean, it's an important part of the process to start creating a conversation with the community, and that will be like the first step. The second step is to tell them, hey, do you have a specific idea? Do you have a specific project that you would like to work close to the government? I think they're both connected, and I think it's probably the natural evolution to have and implement a solid network of social networks for the city, and then the next step is use that to bring more people informed and be aware of the things we're doing and let them to participate. So that's probably the most important part, for example, for the hackathon. Many people see these events as a tech event. And right now, for our next hackathon, we're trying to tell them, no, this is a community event. This is a place where you can connect with ideas. And if you have an idea, because everyone has an idea, and social networks are a great place to tell the government, why don't you build this street on this way, on this other way? Okay, why don't you come and we will figure it out. We will create a model. We will create a prototype, and we will test your idea. My recommendation for people who wants to start working with open government or trying to push innovation in different institutions is, first you have to get it to the top. Try to get the president, the mayor involved in the idea. That probably is the most important part. You have to convince them to have full support of the most important part of the organizations. Because without that support, it becomes very, very hard to convince a whole organization, especially in government, when you have these very antique, huge places where innovation is like a really, really weird thing to talk about. So the first thing is to do that, and then create a network of innovators inside the organization, try to reach that people, that kind of things like you. Because when we began, we had the full support of the mayor, but we had to go down and start talking with some of the agencies. So what we did at the beginning, it was to create a network of innovators inside of the city, get them together, create a golf camp or bar camp with the people, and let them go together and talk and start discussing, and try to create the sense of innovation community inside the organization, the government, whatever organization it is. And the answer for that is amazing, because you see that there is people looking forward to innovate, to change, to do a better work. And also, I think that what will be important is to remind yourself and to remind to the organization the idea of failing and embrace failure as a part of the way that you can find new solutions. And it's really hard for these institutions to do that. But when you start creating a strong network of people, when you start creating specific projects, when you start seeing the results of that, and being able to measure and document everything you do, is a very, very important thing that not everyone does. I think that probably that is the most important part. It is to have a strong network of innovative people inside the organization and start working with them and trying to see how can you help them. Because if there is always an agency on an office, that is, for example, an innovation office, an open government office, that will be taking care of this, it won't scale. You need to create capacities inside every agency. In a few years, the open government office, it should disappear because you created specific capabilities inside every agency, and you created innovation inside every agency. That probably is one of the challenge, and for that you need to study, you need to document, you need to create protocols for them to work, to create standards of innovation inside the agency. So yeah, that will be my recommendation, and be faithful to your idea, follow your idea, because the people get it. I think smart disclosure is a natural part of all the open idea that we are working on it, and it's just the way to say to private companies to follow this idea and to see how can you also take better decisions around the information, your own information around what you're paying for energy or your medical records on stuff like that. So I think it's a natural part of the process that we are living. In the same way that the government is making a big effort to change and to be more open and to try to co-create value with the citizens, also the private sector has to do the same question to themselves. People, it's demanding more information. I think smart disclosure, it's a great way to help people to understand the value of their own information, help them to take better decisions in a more informed way. So I think probably smart disclosure is going to be probably the most important thing in the years to come around your personal information. Is a big challenge, but I think that it's no other way. The most important part of smart disclosure is probably to create a community around that, and the government, the private sector, the academy working together on releasing this information and helping the people to understand that information and take better decisions for that information. But I think in Latin America in general, we are on a very early stage. Some companies are talking about, but not yet. Nobody has done it in a very specific way. In the city of Buenos Aires, we are looking into the project. We are really interested, but I think we also are in a very early stage, releasing the data of the government first. But part of the community we are creating includes private companies. So we are bringing the subject to the table. Imagine the things we could do with that information. The amount of money that you can save with wrong diagnosis to being able to know more about that kind of information. I think it's huge when you start seeing the potential of being able to see all that information in a more useful way. I think it's huge. The idea of the open government lab for the city became clear last year during our first semester of working in open government for the city, when we realized that the speed of innovation that was coming from outside it was so huge that we needed a place, a physical space where you can get more people together. And instead of doing a hackathon in the year, why not doing it every week, every year, and try to create that culture inside the government, have a space where you can co-create with the community, and creating a space that will be comfortable for the people that come from outside, that usually when they come to the government and see the offices, you see that it's a very classic government office with a lot of people and a lot of noise. So we knew that we had to create a place that it's comfortable and has a lot of whiteboards, that it's something that you don't see too much in government. So we said we need a place with great whiteboards, with great connection, and a lot of tables. So we started talking with some of the community of the idea of having a place to, like a co-work space, but also a maker space and also an innovation lab. And that whole idea became the government lab for Buenos Aires that will be launched next year. And as we move and start talking with some of the cities, we start seeing that we were able to, because the whole idea of open government is to create new ways to collaborate. And why don't we create an open channel with other cities and other labs on a daily basis to start sharing what we're doing? I mean, it's not hard. It's just to put on a webcam and start talking with some other labs. It's government in a lean way. That's kind of the idea: to prototype faster and co-create with the community, and to have a place where you can find solutions and implement those solutions in a faster and more efficient way. And also, what we are trying to do is to tell the government that this place is not the open government place. I mean, it's a government lab. It's a place where all the agencies have a space to come with ideas, to prototype those ideas in a faster way, and to see if they work or not. I think it's a great place to incubate, accelerate projects. But I think the whole idea of open government, when I start talking about this, and the great power of all this, is why don't we have cities talking to each other in a more effective way? Because cities has the big potential to move open government to a big scale, and they can move faster. If we are releasing all the data, if we are having all this discussion around standards, we should also have discussions around how can we work together and share projects, and trying to think around replicability, and try to see, we can't be inventing the wheel in every hackathon. There's a lot of value that already has been created, and we need to try to test that with other cities and try to learn what other cities are doing, and if we create an application, to think how can we replicate this in other cities that share common problems. So I think that probably is going to be one of the challenge for the cities that are implementing open government. We are right now working already with the specific cities to create this shared schedule of ideas and projects, because it will be good for all of us. It's a huge challenge to try to change a culture that has been for so much time installed on an organization, and especially in government, that it's a huge organization that grows every year. On the subject of innovation and failure in government, there is a huge challenge to communicate the idea, because if you think about it, the government seems to be a place that it's supposed to have all the solutions, and they are perfect, and they have these great ideas, and they implement these ideas on a up to bottom, in a up to bottom model. That's like the classic way of government to work. So we are telling them now, why don't we start creating, little by little, a way to think on these problems in a bottom-up model, And that way to create prototype in a faster way, it will fail. You will create something and it will fail, but it will fail faster, and we'll be measuring that failure to understand what did it fail, and we will create a better product or a better service, and we will have more ideas coming from outside, and at the end it will save more money for the city because you actually will find a better product. So actually that was kind of the idea we are trying to push inside the government, that failure is a necessary part of innovation. And I think also with the open data, you are also telling the people, here's my information, try to do something with it, and if you find something that is wrong, or if you find new values or new ways to create solutions, we are releasing all this data for you to tell us that. With the releasing on data, you are already telling the community, hey, this is the information that we have. Use it, destroy it, and tell us something about that. And that's where really innovation happens. The government has to understand that this is a way of work that, of course, has a lot of risk for them, because politics are always thinking about elections and things like that. So it's for many people, it's really hard to understand that. But again, we go back to the idea of having the most relevant person in the organization to embrace this idea and to be the one that carry on the message, to tell we are creating these solutions with the community. We are creating a specific space to work in a different way. So open government, the initiative itself, it's a new door for government to work with problems. But at the end, it becomes a cultural change for the organization, and you need to push that with the community. And the community helps a lot. The community helps a lot. Many of the things we were doing to create value around new products help us to tell to the agencies, hey, look what happened when you start releasing data. And if you are not doing it, you are being out of the scene. I think at the end, with the organization, it's a cultural problem. Innovation is not easy, but innovation is on every office. There's people that think how to change the way we do things, and how can we transform that. And to do that, you have to do it from the heart of the organization, and accept the help of the community outside the organization to help them find a ways to do it.